former President Barack Obama said in the Ezra Klein show.
I can go to the fish fry or the VFW hall or all these other venues and just talk to people. If I went into those same places now, or if any Democrat who's campaigning goes to those places, almost all news is from either Fox News, St. Clair's news stations, talk radio, or some Facebook page. And trying to penetrate that is really difficult.
Well, you know, he's talking about the propaganda on these networks and calling themselves news networks. There's been a slant for years now, but the lies are really getting worse, Dan. Do you think anything can break that cycle?
You know, look, I think that there's going to be a certain percentage of the population that is simply going to believe anything that Donald Trump says. I mean, remember, when Richard Nixon resigned, he still had 25% support. You know, there's going to be percentages of people who are simply going to say, what he says goes. I believe him and not anything else that I hear. But I don't think that people should just give up and say, oh, you know, the Republican Party X or the Republican Party Y. There are a lot of independents, right-leaning independents. There are a lot of more moderate Republicans who probably supported and voted for Donald Trump, who are also incredibly troubled by what Donald Trump continues to say, are horrified by the comments of Michael Flynn. And I think that with regard to those people, I think that there is still a very important conversation to be had in the middle.
Listen, I think you're right about that, and I hear it, you know, quite frequently from callers on your show, your radio show, that there are people in the middle. But the problem is not the people in leadership, because they're afraid of being primary, they're afraid of standing up against the former guys, so to speak. But I don't want to waste time here. I want to talk about your book, Dan, if we can. Your new book, Kennedy's Avenger. Talk about conspiracies. I want to talk about these conspiracies when it comes to the Kennedy assassination. Listen, they've been floating around for decades. This conspiracy of Jack Ruby Kennedy, all that. I mean, that's been around forever. I mean, this is not new territory, but it seems to have become more divided. Talk to me about it.
Well, so more than half the American public, since the time that Kennedy was killed, have consistently believed that there was a conspiracy to kill John Kennedy. And one of the things that we found amazing in researching our book, Kennedy's Avenger, was that a lot of the conspiracy theories emerged from the trial of Jack Ruby, right? Oswald doesn't have a trial, he's dead. So Jack Ruby becomes the Kennedy assassination trial. And there were a couple of moments where, for example, the defense attorneys say, we'd like to stipulate that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. The prosecutors say, we're not stipulating anything. Aha! Why are the prosecutors not stipulating it to it? An FBI agent was asked at one point, did you find any evidence of Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby having worked together, known each other? Before he could answer the question, it was objected to. And so, again, there was this specter of all these possibilities. And, you know, it really is interesting to look back on the Ruby trial and the Kennedy assassination to examine the way conspiracies can develop. Some of the conspiracies surrounding the Kennedy assassination are based in certain facts. And Lee Harvey Oswald lived in Russia. He wanted to go back to Cuba. You know, those are real things to consider. And then there are the absurd things, right? Lyndon Johnson was actually the one behind this. That Jack Ruby and Oswald were somehow related in some way. There were body doubles and this and that. And you see yourself, how does this stuff happen? How do we allow ourselves, as many people in the public allow themselves, to be taken in by these conspiracies? And I think that that's one of the reasons why it's valuable to look back at the trial, for example, of Jack Ruby, to look back at the Kennedy assassination, because we are certainly seeing an enormous amount of conspiracy theories now.
Listen, it's fascinating when you learn the history of conspiracy theories. But I think this Kennedy one was the biggest. We'll see how it holds up in history against the big lie. But I certainly can't wait to read the book. Dan, I'm so grateful that you're here. Best of luck with the book. The book, again, is Kennedy's Avenger, and it is out today. Make sure you pick it up. Dan Abrams writes great books, and he does great TV and great radio as well. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Don, thanks for having me.
Next, he says he doesn't know what those UFOs are, but he'd sure like to. Former President Barack Obama talking aliens. Stay with us.
Quest's World of Wonder, in association with Turkish Airlines.
Ruth Lockwood is a carpet connoisseur from New Zealand who came to Cappadocia more than 30 years ago. As the traders bring in their wares, Ruth is giving me a crash course in picking the perfect carpet.
Every region, every village, every tribe have sizes, colours and designs that belong to that group. You always hope that you find that gem.
Don't play poker with Ruth. She gives nothing away. A nod. A twist. Oh, hang on. Oh, I do like that. Oh, you feel the quality. Not that I know anything that I'm talking about. I've made a schoolboy error right at the start.
You just put the price up for me.
Sorry.
Turkish Airlines cares more about your flight safety than anything else. That's why they go beyond the standards and provide you with TK Extra Care, a high-quality protection protocol for every single point of contact throughout your journey. Have a safe and healthy journey with TK Extra Care.
Wherever you are in the world, Lotte is always close to you. Lotte will be with you throughout the world until the name Lotte is synonymous with friendship. Your lifetime friend, Lotte.
The new norm, where reinventing the global economy is about serving the many, and traditional thinking makes way for the disruptors, where people, process, and technology come seamlessly together, where financial ease is paramount and automation has people at its core, where blockchain delivers security and transparency, where machine learning empowers agile investors, where cryptocurrencies redefine the notion of assets, and where quantum computing recalibrates our understanding of speed, where framework offers credibility and regulations fuel fintech innovation. And as we take a step forward, it's time to say, join us. Make your mark. Welcome to the pioneers, the path definers, and the game changers amongst us. Welcome to a city where financial powerhouses and digital disruptors convene. Welcome to Dubai.
Across Africa, businesses are working together like never before. All new on CNN, Connecting Africa.
Join me, Lenny Jokos, as we crisscross the continent to show you how new connections are revolutionizing commerce in Africa. This plan is connecting Africa through the automotive sector.
If we increase your intra-African trade by 3% per annum, we can double that in 5 years.
All new Saturday on CNN in association with Afrexim Bank.
We share this place, we all belong.
Take this. Former President Barack Obama says he wants to know more about the rash of UFO sightings by the military that are coming to light. But when asked by the New York Times as a client about how his politics would change if he discovered that we aren't alone in the universe. Obama saying that it would.
I heard you say the other day that you'd like to know what those UFO objects are too.
Absolutely.
So if it came out that they were aliens, if you got undeniable proof of that, how would that change your politics or your theory about where humanity should be going?
It's interesting. It wouldn't change my politics at all, right? Because my entire politics is premised on the fact that we are these tiny organisms on this little speck floating in the middle of space. But the point is, I guess, that my politics has always been premised on the notion that the differences we have on this planet are real, they're profound, and they cause enormous tragedy as well as joy.
in the net, the work really could be organizing. Intense negotiations with members of this putative anti-Netanyahu coalition here in Israel are continuing. They haven't really stopped since Sunday. I spoke with a source who was involved in the coalition negotiations. He told me that there is a 60%, 6 in 10 chance that they will conclude their negotiations today, and that Yair Lapid, the leader of the opposition party Yesh Atid, will thereby be able to go to President Rivlin and to the Speaker of the Knesset and tell them, I've done it, got together a coalition that will be able to command support of more than half the lawmakers in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament. Once that happens, the Speaker of the Knesset, who, by the way, is an ally, the party, he then has a maximum of 1 million votes to convene the Knesset to then hold a vote on whether this coalition can be effect. Now, they say that it is a technical to try to persuade potential waivers, certainly the right-wing parties that would be part of this governing coalition, to try to persuade them to see the error of their ways, to either reject joining this coalition or to resign or do something that will undermine continual protests outside of homes of these right-wing lawmakers that are potentially going to go into this coalition in Israel. But certainly one thing is clear. After 12 consecutive years of Netanyahu being Prime Minister of Israel, the only thing to see the Ukrainians. Now you've got CNN, which is some analysts of war,
break, you're still alive.
I haven't shot yet. Lunch break.
What number now?
I got about 6 people ahead of me before I get to start. He's one of the 6. I always said to come back at 1 o'clock. And then if we get to start, we have to sit around for a half hour. And they're giving us a cent of that. Yeah, we're getting a Chinese person. I like the Jolly Bees. I need to get another bottle. I'm not going to take another bottle with me. Is that yogurt? Huh? Give it to me, I'll eat that.
Don't put it in there. It tastes horrible. I'm not hungry right now, honey. Yeah, no. I don't want my food to taste like that.
Would be like that.
Yeah, that's what it tastes like.
It tastes like spoiled milk.
But you can use this here in place of sour cream. Been so long since I had it, I forgot how horrible it was. From both players who are current and retired as well within tennis, including Pat McEnroe.
Hey, you make all this money. Hey, if you can go out there and play tennis at a high level, how could you have mental health problems? Well, guess what? You absolutely can. We've seen other former great athletes deal with these type of issues and still be able to perform at a high level. It's not about performing necessarily on the tennis court or on the pitch or on the basketball court, and it's not about how much money you make. And that's, I think, what a lot of people don't quite see.
So how do you explain that just because someone has the talent and the ability to play world-class tennis, that doesn't mean they can deal with being grilled by a bunch of reporters at a news conference day after day after day?
Yeah, no one is immune to anxiety or depression for that matter, which Mia Socrates mentioned that she suffered from. And I think it's hard to fathom because we hold athletes up on a pedestal in terms of when they accomplish these incredible physical feats, we think that they must have it all together mentally. But a lot of times, the extreme pressures they're under actually make them more likely to suffer from anxiety. Social anxiety and performance anxiety when speaking to groups of people are very common across the world. And it's no surprise that they would be common in the athlete population as well, especially given the criticism and the way that they have to be exposed to such, high expectations and the negative talk and judgment about them. It's almost a wonder that any of them actually feel okay.
Yeah, it's a pressure cooker, and there's a lot of pressure on these very young athletes at very early stages of their career. And we kind of heard back in December during an interview with her, Zaka was quoted as saying, off the court, if I was ever thrown into a situation where I had to speak in front of 100 people, I feel like I would start shaking. And then a few years ago, back in 2019, there was a very telling moment during a news conference at Wimbledon.
Maybe has it been difficult to get used to the new level of fame that you had. You've pretty much become a global superstar over the last 12 months by winning in Australia and New York.
I'm sorry, you have to leave that out.
So clearly she was struggling. She got she walked a year earlier. She talked about her issues with struggling with depression and how she was, essentially didn't know what was happening. She just didn't have the energy that she needed to play. So it seems if someone was watching, and that includes the people who run professional tennis, there are plenty of signs that this moment is coming.
Plenty of signs, and to not accept her willingness to talk about it and to do some good. I see that as a mental health professional as such a missed opportunity. She was trying to speak out and to help empower people to speak out, to help destigmatize the fact that mental health issues are out there, and we all are deserving of some compassion of them. And just the lack of support, it's really surprising to me because it really was an opportunity for us to start a conversation about just how common these mental health issues are. And I think it was really brave of her. There have been so many people from her words that felt like, okay, maybe I can get some help. Maybe I'm, not a lost cause. If someone as much of a superstar as her has these struggles, maybe I'm not so bad either. And so I really would have loved to see some more compassionate and progressive stances from the French Open.
Well, it's never too late for tennis officials to change if they decide to change courts here. But thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks again.
Well, let's bring in world sports and itself more on this. So we are hearing this sort of movement in the statements that we're hearing from the Grand Slam organizers, that this is a complex problem and we support her and we know that she's going to do good. But there still hasn't been a lot of action. There's been no sort of effort to try and support her, I guess, which is what some people like we just heard are calling for. But what we are seeing, which is quite significant, is support from responses.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, John. And it will be absolutely, it's just pivotal. We do get change from this. It's a courageous stance from Naomi Osaka. No question about that. People are looking to her to see what she does next, of course. But what good will come from this? You're right, John. There's been an overwhelming by and large across the sport from the world of golf, basketball, and of course from tennis. We had the men's top-ranked player in the world, Novak Djokovic, calling Naomi very brave and adding that he hopes she can come back strong. Her sponsors as well showing their support for the world number 2. Nike saying, our thoughts are with Naomi. We support her and recognize her courage in sharing her own mental health experience. MasterCard with this, Naomi Osaka's decision, reminding us how important it is to prioritize personal health and well-being. Well, you just touched on it there, John. The sport's 4 Grand Slams now saying, this is what they're now saying, that they'll continue to improve the player experience, as they put it, at tournaments, including as it relates to media, while offering Naomi Osaka their support and assistance in any way possible, calling her also an exceptional athlete. Meantime, we got earlier in the week, we had Serena Williams speaking out on this. Now her older sibling Venus speaking after her first round defeat in the French capital, weighing in on all the fallout, how she herself has dealt with media attention and duties through the years. Take a listen. This is strong.
For me personally, how I deal with it was that I know every single person asking me a question, you can't play as well as I can and never will. So no matter what you say or what you write, you'll never let it get on me. So that's how I deal with it. But each person deals with it differently.
And those are the key words, John. Each person does indeed deal with it all differently. We're going to stay across the board. You can be sure of it. And we've got world sport as well coming your way in around 25 minutes from now.
I'm not done with you just yet, Patrick, because they're going to say for a little bit longer. Just very quickly, because on Sunday, what we heard from the Grand Slam organizers, pretty harsh, basically warning that Osaka would just continue to face fines, possible censure, possibly even be banned to refuse to hold these huge conferences with the media. On Monday, it wasn't much better. It was almost a dismissive statement saying we wish her well and we'll be doing what we're doing. Now we've got this show of support, which is obviously progress in the right direction, but is it too little at this point? I mean, what can the tennis professionals do to try and change the damage which is done to their image? If nothing else.
Right. And I think the starting block is good in that we've had this statement from the joint statement that I just referenced there from the 4 Grand Slams. That is at least a starting block, but many would argue, of course, too little, too late. I've been touched as well personally, John, by the show of support we've had, as I said, from the whole spectrum across the sporting world. But look, when you reflect back on what we've witnessed over the last few days, Naomi Osaka, a global superstar, a four-time
Hi. Can I help you?
Stupid tricks. No, actually, it's really the works. So, what are you looking for? So, no, I don't especially care. It has to be spectacular. And I'm not going to find this to use such a stupid trail. What this headlines was said the other day about maybe going all the way to the Olympics. I know. I can't stop thinking about it. It's a big opportunity. But I'm still whispering the talks. Get your dairy-free health checks here. Full of vital vitamins and necessary nutrients to eat.
Not half as good as you said. Help me get over my injury.
You were strong.
The taste is very distinctive. Is that the time?
This is brilliant. What's happening?
Not so easy, is it? Blazing this fickle, ungrateful lots.
Mom, can't you give me some encouragement? Just for once. Awful. Just what I expected from you front of misfits. Thanks, Nick. You said we looked good if we made a success of this. Now we just look worse than ever. We really should turn back. I thought we're miles off the trail. What? I haven't found anything that will win me the badge yet.
You're my productive bell light.
What's that? Oh, so beautiful. What? The tree's a tree. Apart from it being a bit mystical, who cares? But that's all nature's good for, right? Something nice to look at. I'll make something nice looking at this tree. It's destroying the Egyptian paint and it's really bad. Oh no. I'll just stay up on it a tiny little bit. So I will do. Stop! You're killing it. Oh yes, I've got plenty to make a lot out of. It's time, I'm sure of them. Why even bother? I have much. It's time to award the Nature Star Badge. Mildred, Ethel, step forward. Waste of a good shoebox.
It looks like it on my own.
I made this. It's a sort of miniature forest ecosystem.
Sleeping. It is not without some charm.
My creation is a tribute to nature in all its
I
splendor.
have the camera,
So,
his bed,
feel
and
the wonder
just let
and
us
the hope and
run
majesty
the video for
as
12
you gaze
hours.
upon the face of nature.
Here, one winner. Ethel, hello. Enid, I've heard rumors that you're considering leaving us.
I haven't decided yet.
Oh, good. Well, you know where I stand. All I can do is strongly urge you to give very serious consideration to my offer to train.
I'll get back to you. Promise.
Do you think it's fair to put Enid on the spot? Squandered talent is a serious matter, Dimity. Excuse me. Open this lock without the key. The combination is 123. Mum is so good at you. What? How did that happen? Oh, no. Not my cup of tea. Not children. Someone pay for this.
Oh, this isn't good.
Your attention, please. Girls, I'm afraid you're being touched. A terrible pestilence has blighted our beloved academy. We are without fresh food and many spare ingredients. We must tap the approval for serving our old emergency tinned rations.
Boiled beef and salted spam with pounded cinnamon.
Chins up, girls. Remain steadfast. That's nonsense. Everything okay, Bess? My family. Clean professions. Draw magic from the natural world around us. No. We kept it secret. It's not considered cool with the witches. It means we have a deep connection to nature. The thing is, the tree I can make a mask from.
Jeff, if I was taking any maintenance message, I said, for her,
It's you.
said, okay. And that's it.
I think cutting
Check
it down is
everything real
causing a
quick.
lot.
Didn't say for anything else. You said, I said, I did. She said, okay.
Seems the rot's the best thing to ever happen to the shake trade.
Well, all's fair in food and war, I suppose. Not bad, people.
I've improved them. They're much healthier, plus they don't taste like old socks, so.
I guess we could give them another try. It's not bad, thanks.
Well, I've got around quick. I keep seeing the same faces again and again.
Huh?
What exactly did you change?
Try it. Till then,
Racing, you get a hold of that.
shift shakes like there's no tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, that tastes amazing. Wow, this was pretty impressive. Where'd you find it? Well, yeah, Lucy's she's worried. She thinks the ones you cut down are special.
And that's why everyone's spotting.
Yes, I know. See?
Nothing special. So just stand there. It won't come off! Oh! Help! Oh! Come on in! What's it? Mildred, tell me.
Lord, help us, it won't come off. Mask of wood, mask so tight. Leave her face and make this right. I'll go fetch a teacher.
Don't!
Can you imagine the trouble I'll be in?
It's the roof's all my fault.
To help me. Just stay hidden until we get back. We're running low. Maybe we should pivot it to one shape per girl.
Don't worry, I'll make more.
What do we want? Say! What do we want now? What do we want? Say! What do we want now? What do we want? Say! What do we want now?
Yesterday we couldn't give them away. Today they're rioting. Why?
To make them more appealing, I used some powdered some mandrake in the kitchen.
But that's just fast acting and super addictive, unless used in teeny tiny amounts. How much did you use?
Pretty much all of it.
So glad we tagged along for this.
This is a green witch. She can feel what nature's feeling or something. I think she can figure out what's special about that tree. I can see it. The first tree, so old. The one that spawned the entire forest. The old witches called it the forbidden tree. We protected it using an ancient, powerful magic. So cutting it down so they may trigger it go across. Nothing needs to say sorry. Somehow. They've all been ruined by the rot. You don't have the ingredients for an antidote spell. Yes.
There's a last resort antidote spell when all else fails, and only requires one ingredient.
It's only the most difficult, most dangerous ingredient to acquire in the entire school.
Single hair from the head to the best witch.
Too short, too long, too shiny, not shiny enough. Almost adequate. Utterly disgraceful.
She never has a hair out of place. And if she catches us, it's so terrible to get her head stealing.
Bet I know what brand hairspray she uses.
Neck splinters. It's really necessary. Prove you're sorry? Yes. Hey! Free! This is going to take more than a hug. She has to really need it.
What are you doing? Stop that! It's the story of life. Beautiful dancing nature. And a seed growing into a tree. No, you're an idiot. Dancing like an idiot. Join in. Show your love of nature. No thanks. You despise oh. Wait. What's that? Nothing.
You're turning into a tree.
Great. First a troll, now a tree. Does this keep happening to me?
This will be animal put on the tree in theory, so maybe the solution is there too. Terry, thought the rot spirals up to control. Thought animals are true forever. Maybe was right. Can we take a quick rest?
Listen, you don't realize how much a tree is on it. So we need each other. The birds keep my hair tidy. The bugs stop me itching.
Oh, this mouse nibbles my mossy beds. And I give them all food, warmth, and shelter.
The tree I chopped down. It must have been teeming with life. Creatures. Now they have nowhere. I made them homeless. That's horrible. And if I completely turn into a tree and can't turn back, how would I feel if someone chopped me down?
Won't let that happen, Effie. Come on, let's get training. That's a bad challenge.
Guys, what's happening? Quick, before you get too deep.
How could you leave without me? I just need a quick sit down.
Ah!
She's on her way. Get ready. Slowly. Don't move all day and make it night.
We'll have Miss Hardbrook. Not need assistance. Unhand me this instant. Explain yourselves. No.
Everything all right?
right, Miss Hartman. But it is far from all right. Oh, no, no, no. You see, I can explain. I asked the girls to come up with a new indoor activity to play. It seems they went with indoor fishing. Is that right, girls?
Yes, Miss Chair.
You see? Perfectly innocent. That attacked you. You are?
How do you know?
The dicky tummies were a big clue. I tasted enough of the shape to know what was in it and what the cure needed. A hair from the best witch. Now go, make that antidote fast.
Yes, you made it. Oh no, it's dead. So, what do we do now? This or the others? Or the first step? Forbidden tree, which is no more. Go back now and scar with sword. Okay, then how about trees and grass, rivers and lake? Forgive Ethelhalla reversing mistake. You need the oldest, most powerful magic there is. Do my best then. I did this. Maybe the only way to fix it is I take the piece of the tree. But saying, eye for an eye, maybe it's a tree for a tree. It's too bad. You can't just give up. Here, Mildred. It hurts to say this, but you deserve this more than I do. I trust yours. Fire. We'll visit. Yes, we'll build a bench. Just don't build a tree house. What if it doesn't just look like a seed? How did I not see it? Badge was a seed. How did you know that? It's like I said, tree for tree. A bench. As if I want you lot good people. Oh look, Ethel's back. I couldn't give this up. No one. Wait, so you're staying? I'll let this happen to when I want to start training. And don't worry about my mom later. Oh dear, Petula, you're back. Now, I don't say it so long, Michael, forever. But
on the track. Well, oh. Like sprouts and cauliflower. What it is tonight then?
Up to this corner and then over halfway.
I'm going to try.
The canopy here where they play tennis and stuff. That's what we're going.
I'm pretty honest with the last match. Everyone's been told.
Not that far. East of
I'm
Wall.
off the shape. The real money's the veggies. But I've all
I
got
sit
one.
there all, but I sit around all the time.
You're-
That's theirs.
And my favorite person here, my mom.
Thanks, Mabel.
I guess I'm gonna leave the paint home this time to take the umbrella.
Ethel's confession, of course, means she has been stripped of the nature stone. So I hereby award this new badge to
Where
her.
you going?
After all, it's clear who the true friend is.
Tennis players may face what they're now saying. The slap continuing to say that they look to improve the player experience at tournaments, including as it relates to media. Meantime, after we had Serena Williams earlier in the week, now older sibling Venus speaking after her first round defeat in the French capital, weighing in on all the old stuff on fallout, how she deals with certain types of questions from reporters and media obligations.
For me personally, how I deal with it was that I know every single person asking me a question. You can't play as well as I can and never will. So no matter what you say or what you write, you will never let it handle me. So that's how I deal with it. But each person deals with it differently.
No, yeah, I support her. I think she was very brave to do that. I'm really sorry that she is going through painful times and suffering mentally, as what I've heard. This was, I must say, a very bold decision from her side, but she knows how she feels best, and if she needs to take time and reflect and just recharge, you know, that's what she needed to do, and I respect it fully, and I hope that she'll come back strong.
As I said, the reaction continues to come into us here at CNN. American great Chris Evans saying some media needs to take a good look at itself moving forward.
Some of the press is not tennis press. They're tabloid press, or they're bloggers, or, you know, they have nothing to do with tennis. They just want to talk about other things besides tennis. And I think it should be primarily after a match, should be about your tennis. And I think that, you know, somehow everybody has to talk about a solution to make this a healthy environment for the players to go into, and a comfortable environment, because we're all in this together to promote the sport. The other thing that we have to remember is Coco Gauff, 17 years old. A lot of the stars now are teenagers. A lot of the great players are in their early 20s. You know, this isn't football. This isn't golf. You know, this isn't race car driving. We're not talking 35, 40, 45-year-old men. We're talking war women. We're talking youngsters. So I think the press have to take a stand, have to kind of go up another level and have some respect.
Powerful insights there. Chris Evans. All right, we'll get to the rest of the news now from Roland Garros, with Petra Kvitova becoming the second-seeded women's player to withdraw. The two-time major winner from the Czech Republic actually injured while fulfilling media obligations after her first-round victory following an MRI scan. Kvitova expressing her disappointment on Twitter, quote, "During my post-match test requirements on Sunday, I fell and hurt my ankle. It's incredibly bad luck, but I will stay strong and do my best to recover in time for the grass court season." We certainly wish her all the very best indeed. Now, we just heard from Novak Djokovic a few moments ago. This is how the Serbian superstar booking his spot round two after seeing off the USA's tennis sangrin in straights. The top seeded Nole seeking a 19th Grand Slam title, taking it within one. He hopes the world Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal under the lights out with no crowds due to Paris' COVID curfew at 9 p.m. local time there. Djokovic facing the Uruguayan player Pablo Cuevas next. Speaking of Rafa, the king of clay also through to round two. Nadal had to save 2 set points though in the third for overcoming the Australian youngster Alexei Polyevin in straight sets for his 101st match victory at the French. The Mallorcan seeking a mind-boggling 14th title at the Spain Blake, who had made it 21st slam overall. So how about the top-ranked women's player in the world, then another Australian, Ash Barty, getting the job done against the USA's Bernarda Pera, but only after an injury scare. The 2019 champ needing a medical timeout for her treatment of a hip after dropping the second set there. Barty, who didn't defend their title last year due to the global pandemic, although digging deep to win the third, displaying all her fighting qualities in the process.
I'm not going to hide behind the fact that I'm not quite 100%, but I can guarantee that I'll go out there with the right attitude every day and be really accepting of that. And
it's a really inspiring story now. As we pay tribute to the incredible courage of Spain's Carla Suarez-Navarro, who may have lost her first round match against Sloane Stephens, but Carla a winner in so many other ways. The Spaniard's first competitive match in 15 months, and she takes the first set. She even actually got to within 2 points of what would have been an incredible victory. Suarez-Navarro, though, a player, would not let cancer dictate when her career ends. The 32-year-old, though she was planning her retirement tour last year, then came the pandemic, and the very painful moment she'd learned she'd been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it would be a month-long battle before we got news she was cancer-free.
Roland Garros is one of my favorite tournaments, so I have really clear that my first tournament will be this one. Then I try to prepare myself for my best tennis that I can. Obviously, I need more time, but I think I have a good time this week practicing. I have a good level on my match. Of course, I feel tired at the end. I know that if I don't close the match in 2 sets, will be so difficult for me. But I'm really proud of myself. I'm really happy to have the chance to play here one last time.
Incredible story. You could just see the emotion there at the end of that match in her eyes. It was so well. All right, well, European football's managerial merry-go-round continues. Why, as far as famous Italian head coach Carlo Ancelotti is concerned, this next assignment is very much a case of an unexpected opportunity knocking.
Stands at the forefront of African enterprise. Since 1978, we've touched the lives of millions of people by meeting their basic needs. Our belief in the promise of Africa has taken us into 14 African countries, with substantial investments that will propel the continent towards greater prosperity, promising jobs, improved standards of living, and economic growth. Dangote, for an empowered Africa.
The world's biggest business stories in one place. Expert analysis from every corner of the globe. Marketplace Africa, all new Marketplace Asia, and Europe.
Welcome back. It's been an extremely troubled build-up, hasn't it? Football's Copa America, which starts in just over 10 days' time. The tournament was supposed to be the first to be held jointly by 2 countries, but we now know original co-host Colombia and Argentina can't stage matches. Brazil has now been confirmed as the new host of the oldest international tournament in football, but this is a country which itself continues to struggle with the ravages of the ongoing global pandemic. The country's president, though, defending the decision to host.
I was approached by the Brazilian Soccer Confederation with the information that Argentina would no longer host the Copa America, and could Brazil be the host? And the answer was at once, yes. Why do I say at once? Because while I consult with ministers, I did not consult the Minister of Tourism.
because at that moment there would be no fans. Therefore, it was not necessary to consult. I spoke with the ministers who would be involved in the event, and it was unanimous. No one is complaining.
I do want to get to a big story now for the world of football. Who saw this coming? Carlo Ancelotti, one of the world's great managers, back at Real Madrid for a second spell after leading English Premier League Everton. The Italian, remember, won the famed Decimale 10th European Cup during his first stint at the Bernabeu. Ancelotti will be presented to media later this day, calling his next assignment a case of an unexpected opportunity knocking, replacing another of the club's storied managers, Zinedine Zidane. Checking in now on the NBA playoffs here in the US. Tuesday night action, seeing the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets going head-to-head. The second-seeded Nets eliminating their opponents here during this game. We got James Harden posting his fourth career postseason triple-double and 11th by a Nets player. Nets winning this one 123 points to 109. In the process, clinching the series 4-1 and advancing to the conference semis for the first time since 2014. Brooklyn will face the third-seeded Milwaukee Bucks in the second round. Our time is up. We thank you for joining us this Wednesday. The team here in Atlanta. See you next time. As ever, stay with CNN and take care.
Come on, Tire. Dynamic performance. Comfort. Matchless performance delivered by perfect balance. Dynamic performance. Come on, Tire. That's delicious. You have to taste that.
A CNN Marketplace Africa special, as companies across Africa and Asia continue to grow their brands beyond borders. What needs to be done to succeed?
Join me in Jane Asher as we meet the major players helping to strengthen economic ties between the two continents. Investment in physical and digital infrastructure is always the key to unlocking the growth potential.
The Africa-Asia Profit Points, Saturday on CNN, in association with Dangote.
I'm David Colbert in Shanghai, China, and this is CNN.
Hello, I'm John Paul. This is CNN Newsroom live from the CNN Center in Atlanta. At this hour, the end could be nigh for Israel's longest-serving prime minister, with a diverse coalition of political parties inching closer to forming a unity government, united only in their animosity to Benjamin Netanyahu. Peru's government more than doubles the official COVID-19 death toll, leaving it with the world's worst death rate. And the power of no. By dropping out of the French Open, Naomi Osaka has forced it back down by Grand Slam organizers, now promising to address mental health concerns. But is this too little? Late. Good morning, Jerusalem. It's just gone 8 a.m. across Israel, but some could be said on Benjamin Netanyahu's time as the country's longest-serving prime minister. But a diverse group of political rivals decide a significant party differences, and they're coming out as they could announce an agreement to form a unity government, what is essentially an anti-Netanyahu coalition. The leader of the centrist opposition, Yair Lapid, has been working with Naftali Bennett, the head of a small religious nationalist party, trying to form a bloc which controls at least 61 seats in the Knesset to oust Netanyahu. They have about 16 hours left now before a midnight Wednesday deadline. Beyond that, any people still need
intense negotiations with members of this putative anti-Netanyahu coalition here in Israel are continuing. They haven't really stopped since Sunday. I spoke with a source who's involved in the coalition negotiations. He tells me that there is a 60%, that's a 6 in 10 chance, that they will conclude their negotiations today, and that Yair Lapid, the leader of the opposition party Yesh Atid, will thereby be able to go to President Reuven Rivlin and to the Speaker of the Knesset and tell them, I've done it, I have got together a coalition that will be able to command the support of more than half the lawmakers in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament. Once that happens, the Speaker of the Knesset, who, by the way, is an ally of Prime Minister Netanyahu, he is from the same Likud party, he then has a maximum of 1 week in which to convene the Knesset to then hold a vote on whether this coalition can come into effect. Now, they say that a week is a long time in politics at the best of times. This next week could feel like an eternity to certainly the members of this putative coalition and Israelis wanting to see it come into effect. And you can bet your bottom dollar that in that time, Prime Minister Netanyahu will be doing everything possible to try to persuade potential waverers, certainly among the right-wing parties that would be part of this governing coalition, to try to persuade them to see the error of their ways, to either reject joining this coalition or to resign or to do something that would undermine it. You could see more protests outside the homes of these right-wing lawmakers that are potentially going to go into this coalition agreement as well. But certainly one thing is clear. After 12 consecutive years of Netanyahu being the Prime Minister of Israel, we are closer than we have ever been to seeing him leave office. Elliot Gotkin, CNN, Jerusalem.
For more of this hour, we're joined now by Yukon Patsy, editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post. Welcome back. Thank you. Perhaps the only play left for Netanyahu, I guess, is to try and stall an agreement from being reached to form a unity coalition, to try and run down the clock until the midnight deadline on Wednesday. There's another option. Opinion leads it. Haaretz argues under the headline, "Is rule slipping away? Netanyahu could bring capital insurrection to Israel," a reference to January 6th in Washington, some kind of uprising there. But apart from option A, which seems unlikely, option B seems even unlikely. Is there any path forward here for Netanyahu at this point?
Well, John, there's option C. Option C is, and this is also being thrown around, is that maybe only trying to push through a last-ditch bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities, right? But I mean, look, I think all of those options, they might exist, but I don't think they're real, right? Israel has strong democratic institutions that would prevent something like that from happening, whether it would be an attack on Iran at the last second, or hopefully some sort of capital insurrection, maybe a Knesset insurrection, if we do the Israeli version. Netanyahu's real strategy right now is he can't prevent parties led by Bennett and Lapid and everyone else from coalescing together and informing the president later tonight that they have found a way to form a government. What he can then try to do, though, is postpone the vote on swearing in that new government in Parliament. And in that week that he could somehow buy some time, he can then try to, again, peel away some of the members of the right-wing flank of that new coalition. I'm not sure he'll succeed. I think what we saw was the crossing of the psychological barrier by Bennett and his party saying, we're ready for this unity government. Those were the people who were most vulnerable. And if they're not coming over to Netanyahu's side, he might be out of options.
Okay, so let's assume that this announcement comes in the next couple of hours. There will be a unity government. The unity is only an acrimony towards Netanyahu. So can this coalition survive for any significant period of time before it fractures?
Well, that is the question that a lot of Israelis are wondering. There are predictions that it'll last just a few months, maybe half a year, maybe a year at the most. But I think that if Netanyahu sticks by what he's been saying and what close associates of his have put out, that he will remain in the opposition and will become the leader of the opposition, he'll be the glue that will stick together and keep this government together, right? Because he'll be out there in the opposition. He'll be this constant threat, the reminder that he's still there, and that if they fall apart and their government doesn't stick it out, he'll be there to come right back in, swoop in, and take over the country again. So actually, the best gift to this government would be Netanyahu staying on as leader of the opposition. His interest, by the way, in staying on as leader of opposition is he doesn't want to let go of the mantle of his Likud party. He also feels that as leader of opposition, he has some standing publicly that will help him through his corruption trial, which is ongoing, as you know, John. So altogether, I think both sides have an interest in seeing Netanyahu stay on as head of the opposition.
But will the legal troubles he's facing actually surpass any possibility of some kind of political comeback?
You know what? It's difficult to say. In Israel, what we've discovered in these last 2.5 years of 4 repeated elections is that anything's possible in Israeli politics. So I can't rule out anything. He still is very popular, right? Think back to the March 23rd vote. His trial had already begun. We knew that he was going to be on trial. We knew that he's under indictment for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. And still, he received 30 seats from the Israeli electorate. That's over 1.2 million people who voted for him. I mean, that's astounding, right? And they did so because he's strong. They did so because they see him as the leader that they need to kind of ship them through or steer them through these stormy seas here in the Middle East with all the challenges that Israel faces, from Iran to Hamas, which we saw the recent flare-up in Gaza, and Hezbollah in Lebanon. They want him. And those people, I think, will continue to cling to him. By the way, he's playing the victim ticket, right? The victim card. He's saying, I'm the victim of this judicial persecution. I'm the victim of this coalition that's coming together, right, left, center. They're all about me. They all want to bring me down. So he makes the narrative, the story about himself. That keeps himself in the spotlight and keeps his supporters, I think, behind him.
Very quickly, you mentioned that the possibility of an Israeli very good strike on Iran. Netanyahu did speak in very stark terms about the relationship between the United States and Israel and the relationship with Iran.
We certainly think we need to choose, and I hope it will not happen, between friction with our great friend, the U.S., and getting rid of an existential threat. Getting rid of an existential threat will prevail.
So willing to sacrifice or doing damage to the U.S. relation to end a threat from Iran. Will Naftali Bennett, the incoming Prime Minister, assume it to be the incoming Prime Minister for the next 12 months at least? Will he have a very similar sort of outlook in terms of Iran as Netanyahu has?
I think
And then she became very, very engaging, very quirky, very humorous, and she appeared to really enjoy bantering with the press. The press absolutely loved her. So this announcement that she gave just ahead of this French Open was a really big shock to the tennis world and to the media in general.
World Sport Patrick Sell is with us live following the story. Yeah, I kind of get that attitude that it's part of the job. But there's nothing worse than an athlete who does not want to be in one of those news conferences and gives you those sort of yes/no answers and looks out the floor.
Yeah, you're spot on, John. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, this has been a courageous stance, no question, from Naomi Osaka. And I think attitudes have changed, John, since she did come out on Tuesday revealing, and this was crux to me, the fact that the admission that she's suffered bouts of depression since winning her first Grand Slam title. That life-transforming, John, first Grand Slam title in 2018 when she beat the USA's Serena Williams in New York City. Since then, her life, let's be honest, it has simply never been the same since. Everyone has wanted a piece of her when it comes to media access, and it has come to this. I'll say it again. It has come to this. She has had, though, let's be fair, let's balance it out, an overwhelming show of support by and large from across the sporting spectrum. The world of golf, from basketball, where Steph Curry, then of course from tennis, the men's top-ranked player Novak Djokovic, calling Osaka, calling her very brave and adding that he hopes she comes back strong. More reaction. This just shows, John, how emotive this whole issue is, because reaction continues to come in support of Naomi Osaka. Coming into us on Tuesday here at CNN, the American great Chris Evans saying, look, some media does indeed need to take a good look at itself moving forward. Take a listen.
Some of the press is not tennis press. They're tabloid press, or they're bloggers, or they have nothing to do with tennis. They just want to talk about other things besides tennis. And I think it should be primarily after a match, be about your tennis. And I think that, somehow everybody has to talk about a solution to make this a healthy environment for the players to go into, and a comfortable environment, because we're all in this together to promote the sport. The other thing that we have to remember is Coco Gauff, 17 years old. A lot of the stars now are teenagers. A lot of the great players are in their early 20s. This isn't football. This isn't golf. This isn't race car driving. We're not talking 35, 40, 45-year-old men or women. We're talking youngsters. So I think the press have to take a stand, have to kind of go up another level and have some respect.
We said it there with strong, powerful words and not holding back, and very relevant indeed. John, back to you.
Okay, thank you. World Sports Patrick Sell there with all of you. Well, for more, we're joined this hour by Dr. Andre Bonnier, Professor of Psychology at Georgetown University, clinical psychologist and author of Detox Your Thoughts, Create Itself, Talk for Good, and Discover the Life You've Always Wanted. Dr. Andre Bonnier, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, the French Tennis Association issued a brief statement on Monday saying how sorry and sad they are for Naomi and adding this. We remain very committed to all athletes' well-being and to continually improving every aspect of players' experience in our tournament, including the media, like we've always strived to do. There was a brief mention there also of wishing Osaka a quick recovery, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of recognition here about mental health issues which he's dealing with. And in some respects, it came across almost dismissive. How do you say it?
I agree. And I think it's also not taking responsibility for the role that they had in this whole situation. There's no acknowledgement of the fact that this really was an opportunity that seems missed. She spoke out. She was vulnerable. She was courageous. She spoke out about her struggles. She tried to do the right thing. She was going to pay the fine to not participate with the media. And they still came back and doubled down and said that wasn't okay. And so I think it really doesn't seem to reflect their actual actions. They can speak here about supporting her, but I think this was genuinely a situation where they had the opportunity to do something great and to truly be supportive of mental health issues. And instead, all they did was talk and not actually show action.
Yeah, there's been a significant amount of support from both players who are current and retired as well within tennis, including Pat McEnroe.
Hey, you make all this money. Hey, if you can go out there and play tennis at a high level, how could you have mental health problems? Well, guess what? You absolutely can. We've seen other former great athletes deal with these type of issues and still be able to perform. at a high level. It's not about performing necessarily on the tennis court or on the pitch or on the basketball court, and it's not about how much money you make. And that's, I think, what a lot of people don't quite see.
So how do you explain that just because someone has the talent and the group to play world-class tennis, that doesn't mean they can deal with being grilled by a bunch of reporters at a news conference day after day after day?
Yeah, no one is immune to anxiety or depression for that matter, which Miyazaki has mentioned that she suffered from. And I think it's hard to fathom because we hold athletes up on a pedestal in terms of when they accomplish these incredible physical feats, we think that they must have it all together mentally. But a lot of times, the extreme pressures they're under actually make them more likely to suffer from anxiety. Social anxiety and performance anxiety when speaking to groups of people are very common across the world. And it's no surprise that they would be common in the athlete population as well, especially given the criticism and the way that they have to be exposed to such, high expectations and the negative talk and the judgment about them. It's almost a wonder that any of them actually feel okay.
Yeah, it's a pressure cooker, and there's a lot of pressure on these very young athletes at very early stages of their career. And we kind of heard back in December during an interview with Vogue, Osaka was quoted as saying, off the court, if I was ever thrown into a situation where I had to speak in front of 100 people, I feel like I would start shaking. And then a few years ago, back in 2019, there was a very telling moment during a news conference at Wimbledon. Here it is.
Naomi, has it been difficult to get used to the new level of fame that you have? You've pretty much become a global superstar over the last 12 months by winning in Australia and New York.
I'm sorry, we have to leave that there.
So clearly she was struggling. She walked a year earlier. She talked about her issues of struggling with depression and how she was, essentially didn't know what was happening. She just didn't have the energy that she needed to play. So it seems if someone was watching, and that includes the people who run professional tennis, there were plenty of signs that this moment was coming.
Plenty of signs. And to not accept her willingness to talk about it and to do some good, I see that as a mental health professional as such a missed opportunity.
It was part of my conversation with Professor of Psychology and author Andre Bernier. Now, Hong Kong's June 4th Museum, which documents the 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown, is now under investigation by authorities. The museum opened 10 years ago, but is now closed until further notice, after allegations it never received the appropriate permits. Just days ago, a Hong Kong appeals court ruled in favor of a ban on a candlelight vigil to commemorate the Tiananmen Square protests. Still to come here on CNN Newsroom, the latest COVID outbreak in China has prompted authorities to take some drastic measures live to Beijing for the fight to contain this new outbreak. Also ahead, how the technology used in Pfizer and Moderna's COVID vaccines could revolutionize medicine as we know it.
All new Marketplace Asia with Christy Lustout and Selena Wang. All new Marketplace Asia tonight on CNN.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
The Tag Heuer Monaco is one of the most iconic designs to have ever come from the Tag Heuer brand. And matter of fact, Heuer was the parent brand before it was bought and ultimately became Tag Heuer in the 1980s. The Monaco is very interesting because it's a timepiece that is closely associated with racing, and as well as the actor Stephen Monaco in the 1971 racing film Le Mans. The earliest Monaco is a reference called the 1133, and specifically the Queen War, the 1133B. The B stands for blue. So the Monaco, at least the one that the Queen War, is a blue dial. The watch itself is very iconic, but it's also striking from the perspective of design, but also functionality.
I'm Nick Walt in Los Angeles, and this is CNN. Health officials in China have reported 13 new coronavirus infections on Tuesday. The new clusters are in Guangzhou, where authorities have sealed off parts of the city to contain the spread. A growing number of neighboring cities are also issuing stay-at-home orders. Across the province, officials have reported more than 24 new confirmed cases last week. CNN's Stephen Zhang live in Beijing with more on this. 13 may not seem a lot, but in China it is, and they're taking really harsh measures.
That's right. This is a relatively small number, but of course alarming by Chinese standards, because the government here, especially officials at the local level, really want 0 cases in their jurisdiction. That's why, that you have seen their prompt and forceful response. And they have taken a page from their now familiar playbook, including mass testing in the city. Millions have been tested, as well as locking down areas designated as high risk and or medium risk. But the difference between now and what happened when COVID first hit China, of course, is precision, because that's the word they're after these days. When you look at how they did their lockdowns back then, it was locking down entire cities or even entire provinces. Now, gradually that became city neighborhoods or townships. And now in Guangzhou, they were only designated several residential buildings as high-risk areas. So the people affected by these lockdowns in terms of these strict stay-at-home orders is still relatively small. So they're trying to strike balance between rapid containment and minimal disruption. But the key here, or the most important and urgent task at hand for them, is to trace the origin of this case, because the first case reported in Guangzhou, a 75-year-old woman, she had no travel history, so they're still not sure how she contracted this virus. But of course, given Guangzhou's status as a bustling international hub, many people had speculated she contracted from someone who had arrived in China from an infected area in India, because officials have confirmed that this is the Indian variant that's been spreading in Guangzhou. But we still don't know yet. That's something they're looking into, and that's a very important part of their containment strategy. John.
Stephen, thank you. Stephen Zhang live in Beijing. Well, more countries could soon have access to China's Sinovac coronavirus vaccine after approval by the World Health Organization for emergency use. The 2-dose vaccine will be added to the WHO's global COVAX program, which is facing severe shortages after India suspended its vaccine exports. An independent panel of experts recommends the Sinovac vaccine for anyone aged 18 or older. Moderna is applying for full approval in the US for their coronavirus vaccine. Now, the second company after Pfizer to seek that approval. Both vaccines use messenger RNA technology, which is now being tested to treat HIV, cancer, and other autoimmune diseases. CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta explains how the approach could drive the next wave of healthcare innovation.
I really feel good about today. As I sat there waiting to get my COVID vaccine last December, I remember thinking just how ordinary and extraordinary this moment was at the same time. It wasn't just that the vaccine had the potential to protect you and me and end this pandemic, but also the possibility that this vaccine's technology could fundamentally change medicine. It all starts with this tiny strand of genetic material known as messenger RNA, mRNA. It's made in our bodies all the time, directing our cells to make different proteins. And it's also the backbone of Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna's COVID-19 vaccines. In this case, instructing our own bodies to first make the coronavirus's signature spike protein, which then in turn prompts our immune system to create antibodies to that spike protein. Think of it like this. It's essentially turning our bodies into our very own vaccine-making machines.
Once you've got the sequence, it's a one-step reaction to make RNA.
Dr. Drew Weissman began investigating the potential of manipulating mRNA in the mid-2000s.
Back then, we were thinking of using it for vaccines, for therapeutic proteins.
Fast forward 2 decades, and these ideas are a reality, and they are growing. Moderna is now testing that technology for cytomegalovirus. That's the leading infectious cause of birth defects in the United States. Another company, CureVac, is utilizing the technology for a potential rabies vaccine. And everyone is seemingly currently, it takes about 6 months to develop a flu vaccine, meaning researchers have to make an educated guess on what's going to be the major flu strain circulating next season, even before the current flu season is over. An mRNA flu vaccine could shorten that timeline to about a month. What you may not know is much of this began with a love story, a husband and wife team of Drs. Uhar Sahin and Aslam Turechi. I spoke with them months ago for my podcast, Coronavirus Fact versus Fiction. What is the future now, do you think, of mRNA technology?
It is a very versatile technology, and you can also use it to combine multiple antigens, for example, of cancer.
So remember that idea of turning our bodies into vaccine-making machines? Well, they are now in the early stages of doing that for cancer. But instead of a spike protein for coronavirus, they find cell markers for an individual's cancer and essentially train the immune system to fight it. It is highly specific and very fast. It's this agility that Pfizer is also now relying on to fight potential new variants of the coronavirus.
Our goal is to do it in 3 months, be able to develop a new variant, get it through production, and bring it to patients.
In a year where so much went wrong, it is worth truly celebrating the things that went right.
3 million doses pumped through here.
Mike McDermott at Pfizer got a little emotional when I asked him to reflect on the moment.
As a kid, my dad worked for NASA. He worked on the Apollo program. And the day we shipped the first doses out of the site, it rushed over me like that was not wrong. That was our moonshot.
A moonshot that we were not only incredibly lucky to witness, but to actually experience ourselves. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN, report.
US info surge as part of the World Weekend. US clearly stands out their data countries. As CNN week-on-week reports, airlines are hoping that means a return to a busy travel season for the country.
I'm here at Reagan National Airport, which was a ghost town a year ago, and now the TSA says it screened 1.9 million people at airports across the country on Monday. Compare that with the same day back in 2020, when only 350,000 people flew nationwide. The air travel record of the pandemic set only back on Friday, when 1.96 million people flew. All of this means that air travel just reported the busiest 5-day stretch of the pandemic, 8.97 million people. It is a early pickup to a rebound for the summer travel season. Airlines cannot wait for this, and Delta Airlines says it will fly 90% of its capacity this summer. You know, this story, not just about air travel. AAA predicted that 37 million Americans would travel 50 miles or more this holiday weekend. 34 million of them traveling by car. Those numbers really not all that far off from where we were back in 2019, pre-pandemic. People tell us they're excited to get back to a bit of a return to normal. One thing still not normal, you have to wear masks, even if you are fully vaccinated, across the transportation system, as mandated by the federal government. Planes, trains, buses, boats, and also here in terminals. Pete Montine, CNN, Reagan National Airport.
The joint show of strength between the US and NATO, and it comes just weeks ahead for a highly anticipated summit between Russia and the United States. Exclusive look at the operation that's next. Also, the battle against an insurgency in Africa's Sahel region. The US president outlined what's needed to restore stability.
We are in this space not just to have a product on a shelf in a category that is growing healthy,
We are in the space to make the world better, to make something that is designed for human beings and better for the planet. And that's the distinction between us and many of our competitors. That's the reason why we go to work, why we wake up. That reason is so articulated within our company, and that is something we return to lead over time. Just look at the science that we have behind us, the multiple clinical studies that we made, and the research around agriculture. I mean, it's solid. And it's 25, 30 years of experience behind that. So it's been a long journey here. But we've been persistent. We've been there. We let it diverted for our original idea and the reason for being as a company, And that is the difference. It's a different mindset.
Across Africa, businesses are working together like never before. All new on CNN, Connecting Africa.
Join me and Lady Java as we crisscross the continent to show you how new connections are revolutionizing commerce in Africa. Let's learn Connecting Africa through the automotive sector.
If we increase the intra-African trade by 3%, we can double that in 5 years.
All new Saturday on CNN in association with Afrexim Bank.
A show of unity in the skies over Europe as US and NATO allies fly bombers over all 30 NATO countries in a joint operation. This may also be sending a message to the Russian President Vladimir Putin amid rising tensions. We get more now from CNN's Nick Robertson with an exclusive look.
27,000 feet over Scotland. Flying at 275 knots, a US Air Force B-52 long-range Stratofortress bomber refueling on a flight from Spain before returning to a NATO mission, Operation Allied Sky, taking aircraft within sight of Russia. It's not a large-scale NATO mission involving more than 50 NATO members flying over NATO states. And in part, it's a message to Russian President Vladimir Putin. 2 weeks ahead of President Biden's summit with Vladimir Putin, it's a timely statement of the steel backing Biden's diplomacy and puts NATO wings in the skies close to where a Belarus fighter jet forced a civilian passenger plane to land, arresting a Belarusian dissident and his Russian girlfriend, raising tensions.
We're meeting with President Putin in a couple weeks in Geneva, making it clear we will not stand by and let him abuse those rights.
The US Air Force KC-135 Stratotanker took off from southern England half an hour ahead of the refuel. Both tanker and bomber, Cold War-era aircraft, older than their aircrew, but with East-West tensions climbing, just as relevant as when they were built.
It is interesting. I mean, all the generations of pilots that have been able to fly it. It's updating every once in a while, but she's reliable and it's working. So no real need to change a whole lot.
The mission, according to NATO commanders, intended to demonstrate what they call credibility of common defense and enhanced readiness. For Captain Todd Berglund, a 6-year tanker veteran, and his crew, this day, like all others, the Stratotanker, nothing left to chance.
We have to be at a certain place on time with the right amount of gas all the time. So a little bit more pressure, but we do it so often. It's just it becomes a habit pattern. That's our profession, so it's just what we do.
How much big NATO missions like this phase Putin is hard to measure. In a few weeks in Geneva, when they meet, Biden will be able to judge. Nick Robertson, CNN, somewhere over the UK.
The world's largest meat packer and most recent high-profile victim of ransomware says it's making significant progress after a cyber attack that U.S. officials say can likely be traced to Russia. JBS Foods say operations in North America and Australia were targeted. CNN's Alex Markov has the very latest now from Washington.
The Biden administration is accusing Russian ransomware attackers of being behind the latest attack on critical infrastructure, this time meat processing. JBS Foods, one of the biggest food companies in the world, says it is the victim of an organized cyber attack against its IT system. According to the American Farm Bureau, JBS processes just under a quarter of the U.S.'s meat production. The White House isn't accusing the Russian government, but cyber criminals. Still, they make it clear that they see it as Russia's responsibility to crack down on these malicious actors. The White House Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said in a statement, quote, "The White House is engaging directly with the Russian government on this matter and delivering the message that responsible states do not harbor ransomware criminals." Remember, the ransomware hackers that attacked the Colonial Pipeline recently were also from Russia. That caused gas shortages and long lines up and down the east coast of the United States. Another White House official told me that the president was briefed on Monday about this attack, and he told his administration to take any necessary measures to address any impact on supply or prices. So that is clearly a major concern of the Biden administration. Now, the White House also says that multiple federal agencies are coordinating their efforts, monitoring the situation. The USDA is speaking regularly with the JBS Foods leadership, and JBS is getting technical help from the cyber agency CISA. Neither JBS nor the White House said what the ransom demand is, nor has the company said what's working and what's not. But a number of their production facilities appear to have been shut down. We've seen Facebook posts in Nebraska, Texas, and Wisconsin saying that production is not happening and other services are also not working. So this is yet another reminder of how vulnerable critical infrastructure around the world is to malicious actors. Alex Markov, CNN, Washington.
The partner of British billionaire Lord Michael Ashcroft's son is facing manslaughter charges in Belize. Authorities are investigating Jasmine Hartman's role in the shooting death of a police superintendent. His body was found in the water here in San Pedro with a gunshot wound to the head. Lord Ashcroft's son, Andrew, is a well-known development in Belize. It's unclear again how married. A Belarusian opposition activist stabbed himself in the throat during a court hearing Tuesday in Minsk. The images are disturbing, although a local human rights watchdog group says his wounds are not life-threatening. That group goes on to say that Stefan Latipov harmed himself in court because authorities had threatened his family he did not enter a guilty plea. CNN's Craig Franklin has more details, and once again, a caution, his report contains some disturbing images.
There's some very troubling scenes in that courtroom in Minsk as the activist Stefan Latipov stabbed himself in the neck while he was on trial. And all this happened after Latipov's father actually gave witness testimony, and it was then that Latipov himself started speaking, and he said that he had been pressured by the authorities, that they had threatened to go after him, but to also go after his neighbors and his family as well. It was then that he stabbed himself in the neck. And one of the things about those trials in Belarus is that very often the defendant is in some sort of cage, and in this case, he then collapsed inside that cage, and workers in the courtroom went inside and got him out. He was then carried on a gurney outside, and a human rights group said that he was actually in surgery on Tuesday, but that luckily his wounds were not life-threatening. Now, all of this, of course, causing big uproar amongst the Belarusian opposition. The opposition leader, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, she called it the state's terror. And the opposition has been calling for tougher action against the Belarusian regime, against Alexander Lukashenko, the president of Belarus. Of course, all of this also coming after the government of Belarus forced that Ryanair jet to land to then get the journalist and activist Roman Protasevich off that plane and arrest him and his Russian companion as well. The Belarusian opposition is saying that they demand tougher action against the government in Minsk, especially of the Biden administration. And certainly that's also something that a lot of opposition activists are going to be looking at when President Biden meets with Vladimir Putin. But in CNN, relay.
Well, the threat of a second devastating volcanic eruption in the Democratic Republic of Congo is haunting survivors of an earlier disaster. Scientists at the city of Goma say a second eruption remains possible, could happen with very little warning. Experts have continually reported seismic activity after a nearby volcano erupted almost 2 weeks ago. Hundreds of thousands of people were forced to flee their homes. Many do not know that their homes remain safe. The presidents of France and Niger are calling for international help in their fight against terrorists in Africa's Sahel region. In recent years, this vast area has seen a sharp increase in the number of wars, coups, militant attacks on civilians. And on Monday, the French president, Emmanuel Macron, said French troops alone cannot bring peace to the region. And Niger's leader wants allies to contribute weapons as well as financial assistance to help end violence. CNN's Roosevelt has more.
The cheers were also a relief. Democracy has survived an attempted putsch just 2 days before Mohamed Bazoum was inaugurated as Niger's new president. Neighboring Chad is now in the hands of the military following the death of its president on the battlefield, as is Mali, after a coup last August and then the ousting by the army of both the president and the prime minister. In the more than 1 million square miles Sahel region, many fear that democracy has been crumbling under the weight of an insurgency fueled by the weapons that flowed south from Libya after the 2011 civil war.
Les terroristes qui occupent la zone du Sahel sont en possession d'un gouvernement dont jamais une organisation militaire non étatique n'avait pu disposer. Ces jeunes terroristes, aujourd'hui, utilisent la M80 exactement comme ils utilisent la Kalachnikov, la AK-47. Or, ce n'est pas une arme individuelle. Elle est presque devenue individuelle.
President Bazoum believes the problem is strictly a military one. With the right weapons, he says, and more financial support from the rest of the world, the terror threat can be dealt with by regional armies and stability restored. Partly, he says, because the Islamist threat in the Sahel is not endemic, but imported.
Vous savez, les chefs qui sont en Irak ou au Maghreb de ces deux organisations, l'État islamique et ACMI, aujourd'hui semblent se concentrer sur le Sahel, qui est un peu le ventre mou dans le combat contre le terrorisme.
For now, though, that war is not being won. Attacks have been on the rise and democracy is on the back foot as the armies take control.
La guerre coûte très cher. Nos partenaires doivent soutenir cet effort parce qu'après tout, nous nous battons un peu pour tout le monde aujourd'hui. Le centre de gravité de la rébellion, du terrorisme s'est déplacé. Il se trouve au Sahel parce que nous sommes les plus vulnérables. Mais attention, si on nous laisse à notre sort, notre vulnérabilité va s'accroître. Et cet ennemi, qui est notre ennemi commun, va se renforcer et il posera un problème, non pas seulement au reste du continent africain vers lequel il est en train d'avancer, mais ce danger est un danger de l'humanité.
President Bazoum says it is now up to the rest of the world to help pay for a fight that he says can and must be won. Melissa Bell, CNN, Paris.
Well, in the midst of one of the world's worst COVID outbreaks, Brazil is now trying to pull off hosting duty for South America's largest football tournament. Very late on that. And why? That's next.
I'm Stanley Tucci. I'm fascinated by my Italian heritage, so I'm traveling across Italy to discover how the food is as unique as the people and their past. Come with me as I taste the flavors of the land and sea. And discover what the food tells us about the people that craft it and its distinct regions. And my extra is making a pizza.
That's one of the best martinis I've ever had in my life. If you don't believe in God, you believe in tortellini. It's like a religion.
Oh, wow. This dish tells a story. It has survived the darkest of times. Sushi on the ground.
A CNN original series, Stanley Tucci, Searching for Italy, premieres June 20th.
A CNN Marketplace Africa special as companies across Africa and Asia continue to grow their brands beyond borders. What needs to be done to succeed?
Join me in saying after as we meet the major players helping